Welcome to Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur Podcast. Join the Podcast Mogul Phil Better as he interviews successful entrepreneurs that make their living in the digital world. Now, let's join your host, Phil Better, and his special guest today on Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur Podcast.
Hello and welcome back to another compelling episode of Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur Podcast. I am your host, Phil Better, the Podcast Mogul, and it's my absolute pleasure to introduce our distinguished guest today. They are not only the CEO and founder of Bigly Sales, they are a visionary leader reshaping the sales landscape through innovative AI solutions. With a background rooted in staffing and executive experience at Workbeast LLC, our guest keenly identified the need for streamlined sales processes in our ever-evolving market. His journey from the staffing industry to the forefront of AI-driven sales is a testament to his dedication to leveraging technology and investing in himself. The dedication is vividly This dedication is vividly evident in Bigly Sales' cutting-edge tool for lead generation and customizable landing pages. His commitment to efficiency and client appreciation positions Bigly Sales as a true trailblazer in the technology industry. Get ready to gain insights into the future of sales and the powerful intersection of artificial intelligence and entrepreneurship. Please welcome our guest, Tom Ryan. Tom, thank you so much for being here.
Phil, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
It's my absolute pleasure. We were talking just before about some AIs and about Terminator and all this, which I'm really excited to talk about in the show. But first, welcome. And the first question, as always, is why did you become an entrepreneur?
So it's something that I just always wanted to do. I worked for a family business for a while, and finally I just decided I didn't really like working for other people. It didn't really matter who they were. I wanted to do my own thing and do it my own way. And if I failed, fine, I failed. And if it did well, fine, I did well. But, I just really didn't want to work for other people anymore is what it came down to.
I like that. It's a very simple, pretty much it's a freedom. The freedom to do what you want, when you want, whenever you want, and not have someone over telling you, you can't do this.
Yeah, and I'm still working 60, 80-hour weeks, right? Like, it's not like I'm not doing anything, but it's not someone else directing me what I should be doing, how I should be doing it, what strategies we should be using. And, that's it. It's investing in yourself, like it says on the board behind you there.
Yeah. So you just decided, hey, I don't want anybody else telling me what to do. And when did you decide to leave?
And then I had kids, so
Oh yeah. Well, you'll never stop having someone tell you what to do. Now that you have kids, apparently, that's what my parents tell me, anyways. But did you leave the working world right away and jump right into entrepreneurship, or did you have a period of time where you're like, I'm going to transition into the entrepreneurial world?
So I got a nice scholarship for grad school, and I got a nice scholarship to the University of Miami, and I was getting my MBA at the University of Miami, and I launched a couple of businesses while I was in grad school there, and one of them ended up working pretty well. We went from about 20 grand in sales year one to 12 million year three. So I ran with that for a while, but it wasn't what I was passionate about. It wasn't what I wanted to do. And I tried running it for a while where I was doing it 5-10 hours a week, but you got to put in the effort for any of these things. Mm-hmm. So I got rid of that business and I went full-time on this, which is something that I love doing. I'm excited about work every day. I'm passionate about what I'm doing, what I'm building, which I think is probably one of the most important things. If you're not passionate about what you're doing, you're not going to want to stick with it. It's going to get hard occasionally for everyone, right? There's going to be hard times. There's no one has it easy in life. Right? You might think someone has it easy. You don't know what their life is. So, if you're actually doing something you love and something that you care about and something that you're passionate about, you're going to stick with it and you're going to care more and you're going to enjoy it and you're probably going to win. Versus something that, it's kind of a chore going to work every day.
Yeah, no, I fully agree with that. And plus, the simple fact that you're passionate about this and you're putting in those like extremely long hours, 50, 60, 70, 80-hour weeks, it just shows how much more enjoyable this is, even though it's more stressful because everything relies on you. When did the idea of bigly sales come to mind? Like, when did the AI decide to jump into this world?
So initially, it was a CRM and sending platform. So the initial idea was to take a CRM system, and the big problem I always saw with CRM systems is it's garbage in, garbage out. And what do I mean by that? That if you don't put the data into your CRM system, it just never makes it in there, and then the information is kind of useless. So, in every sales organization I was ever involved with, and everyone I ever talked to who ran sales organizations, it was always a fight to try to get people to put stuff into the CRM. Right? You'd have to kind of use the stick. Hey, if you don't put this in the CRM, you're not going to get credit for it. And if someone else takes that lead, they're going to get the credit. But then people wouldn't put in the conversations. Text messages would never make it in. Emails would occasionally make it in. If there was a phone call, maybe they would log it, maybe they wouldn't log it, right? So the initial idea was a CRM that connected to your phone system, your text messaging, your email. Everything goes in, everything's in one place, everything is automatically logged without any data entry, and recorded, logged, etc. Right? Everything's there, and then you can get stats on everything that's been done, how many messages were sent, how many positive replies, etc., etc., etc. And so I built that first, and we were trying to sell it to people. And basically, people are like, "Yeah, that's great. Where are my leads? Like, how do I get the leads? How do I get the data in here? How do I get all the people to send to? How do I?" So we eventually just gave people what they wanted, right? They wanted leads, and then I watched people using this system, and not knocking anyone, but most of the people, they didn't want to actually do the work themselves. They just wanted to give it to someone else. So most of the people using it, they would give it to their Filipino assistant, right, or their Pakistani assistant, and Muhammad would be doing the work, which he would be sending the stuff, and he would be sending it in broken English, right? And sometimes people would respond an hour later, sometimes they'd respond a day later, sometimes they'd respond a week later. Well, your close rate drops off
Dramatically.
95% after an hour. 95%. So if someone's messaging you and you get back to them in 5 minutes, you have them, they're engaged, they're still doing it, right? After that hour's passed, they're doing something else. Maybe they remember who you are, maybe they don't, maybe they think it's spam, right? So, you really need to engage with them right away. And when the LLMs came out, I said, "Oh my God, this is it." And we went to become an early adopter. We got access to ChatGPT right after it went live, right after it came out of beta. We were, that first group out of beta. We got access to Claude, still in beta, to be able to use it. And we started building out the CMS, and we started building out the autoresponders, and building out all the prompts and how to do everything. So that's kind of the journey. That's
how much. So obviously, you went to school for an MBA.
Yep.
Did you do coding or anything technical like that, or were you just strictly on that business side of life?
No, I was on the business side, and frankly, I think the MBA, maybe 2% of it was useful.
I've heard that from my father about people coming into the business with an MBA. But anyways, we won't comment on the MBAs. That's another podcast story. We're going to focus on this. So when you heard that the LLMs, large language models, for those who aren't familiar with the acronym, how did you go about learning all this stuff with AI, or was AI something you were already interested in?
So, first off, I already had a programming team at this point. We'd already, I'd already built a tool where I could send out thousands of texts, I could send thousands of emails, I could, make as many phone calls as we wanted. We had the ability to buy phone numbers. So I already had all the infrastructure built. And now the issue I was having was people aren't communicating very effectively. It's like, boy, do we bring this in-house to do the communications for them? How do we make this tool work for them? Because I was watching people use it, and they just weren't using it very effectively. they send out messages to their database and they get back to them, a week later. It's like, come on, guys, you got to answer them back right away. You can't wait a week. And then someone says, "Oh, I didn't get a lot of value out of it." I said, "You didn't answer them back for a week. What do you expect?" Right? So we're going, how do we fix these problems? How do we fix these issues? And then a ton of the folks we were dealing with said, "Boy, this sounds great. So where do I get all these leads? Where do I get these people to message? How do I get these folks in?" And I'm like, "Well, don't you have people that you've been dealing with over the years?" And I'm like, "Well, yeah, but I want new clients, Like, how often do you talk to your current clients?" Whenever they call me. Like, you'll do a lot more business if you reach out to them on a regular basis. And so anyway, when I saw what the LLMs were doing, I said, this fixes everything. This fixes every single problem that exists with the communication. We can automate all the communication and do it in a way where, it's going to be your best sales rep. It's going to know everything there is to know about the company. We can program in all the data. We can take hundreds of pages of documentation. We can feed it into ChatGPT or Claude. We can use a vector database to go and point to the appropriate thing, and we can answer any question, for all intents and purposes within a few seconds. So anything about the business, anything about, whatever. So that's really how we started with the AI, that it just solved all the problems that I was having. So we created a landing page builder, and it'll spin up a landing page automatically using AI to, you pick the industry and you pick the purpose of the page, and it'll just spin up a landing page at will for you. And then we have that landing page set where anyone who fills out that form will automatically go back into Bigly. We also have an ID management system that sits on top of there where literally, if you go onto the landing page, we'll be able to know your cell phone, your email, your address, your credit score, what kind of car you drive, the value of your home.
Just the simple things that most people have and they freely give.
Well, as a bit, how much money you make. So as a business owner, that you can then take that data and then you can figure out exactly who's buying from you, exactly who your customers are. Maybe they all drive yellow Porsches. I mean,
who knows?
Right? It's you can take that data and you can do all sorts of things with it. So anyway, yeah, we built out all these different tools, and I'm having fun every day.
I can only imagine. Now, it is kind of scary that, like, with these AI tools, that they're becoming smarter and smarter. We see Boston Dynamics robots being able to open doors, I think, right now, or not get pushed down when they get kicked, which is terrifying. And we mentioned Terminator before we jumped on here. Should people worry that we're at the... No.
So first off, now I can give you some horror stories about stuff, but it's not going to be what you think. So I'm happy to go through some of the horror stories. Right now, the large language models, the AI, as people know it, it's autocomplete. Now, it's the most advanced autocomplete the world has ever seen, right? But it's basically the same way when I start punching something into Google and I put in a word and I put in a medicine that says side effects, right? Or I put in, a location and it says like restaurants near there or something like that. Google knows this is what the most common searches are. So let me put the 5 most common searches in the results. And ChatGPT does the same thing, just with way more data. They've taken 1.7 trillion data points. They've basically fed the entire internet in there. Any word that has ever been spoken and recorded, anything that has ever been written, is going to be put into ChatGPT to analyze, and then it's going to spit out something that looks kind of like it. So anything that's novel, that it's never seen before, there's no way to do things that look like what it has made before. Now, some scary stories on this, so it's not going to say, aha, I've become aware, and now I'm going to try to exterminate all the humans. But if you tell it, hey, what's the best way to kill people, right, it'll come up with some ideas. So For example, they had some scientists, I don't know if anyone's heard this story, this is phenomenal. They were looking at ways to make the best, most helpful compounds using AI. Great, right? And they were running this program. And one of them said, what if we just switch something around? And they basically turned a 0 to a 1. And they said, what are the most harmful compounds? And it came up with like 10,000 of them the next day. Right? They let it run overnight, and it came up with like 10,000 of them. One of them was VX gas. And that wasn't the worst one on the list. And then they actually got brought to the White House because of this. Like, they brought them in, the White House called them, the Pentagon, like they're going in there, to meet with the Joint Chiefs. And they're like, what sort of equipment were you using to do this? And they're like, a 5-year-old MacBook, a 6-year-old MacBook. They're like, wait a minute. So you're telling me anyone on earth has the compute to be able to pull this off? And they're like, yeah. So, I mean, they didn't share their algorithm, thankfully, but I don't think it's that difficult. You can have a couple of computer science majors that if they want to do something harmful, they can, and they could do that exact same thing with coming up with malicious code. AI is really good at code, right?
Yes, it is.
They can also do things where they put it on a fighter jet, and they did a simulation, and they had it fly for 100 years, right, of simulated time. And then they took the AI and they put it on a jet and they put it against the Top Gun fighter. I think it was in a simulation, but whatever. And it beat the Top Gun fighter like 100 times out of 100.
Jesus.
Like, so, and then they're saying, well, what happens if we network these together into nodes, right? What happens if we network this to 100 different planes? What will this be able to do? So, I mean, could it revolutionize warfare? Absolutely. It will. Who's spending the most money on AI? It's the Pentagon, right? It's the Department of Defense. Like that's who basically invented the AI industry. Palantir and those places. Like their main customer is the DoD. So there's definitely some scary things out there with it, and the misinformation thing. You could create enough misinformation to bury anything if you hook this to Twitter or to Instagram or whatever. You could create 100 stories a day, 1,000 tweets a day, right? 10,000 tweets a day. You could create 100,000 accounts that each create 1,000 things a day. You could overwhelm the total volume of other non-AI content out there. Right now, we're using it for our SEO. I think we've put out 1,000 SEO articles in the last 3 months, something like that, because we can just crank these things out, and then I have a person edit it afterwards. But now it's you do an editing job, and how long does it take you to edit a 1,000-word article versus writing it from scratch, right?
Yeah.
And you can edit these things so much faster. And even OpenAI says it can't tell what stuff is AI written. If you start giving it different prompts, you give it a personality, you do something like that, like they can't tell.
Yeah. Jesus, the future is vastly interesting now.
Yeah, and don't believe anything you see or hear anymore. So
yeah, that's pretty much true, because we have the deep fakes coming out now with AI and that. But we're gonna go back to the more positive side of AI, and not looking down the barrel of the end of humanity, because I still think we have a few more years left before that happens, whether AI or something else takes over.
But the AI is not taking over. It's going to be people that are using
AI.
It's like you have a bulldozer. I can use it to knock over a building, or I can use it to help construct one. It's true.
It's the tools. It's just a tool, and it's the people that use the tool that decide whether or not.
You still got to worry about the people.
Yeah, people are the biggest issue and bottlenecks in most things. I'm curious to ask you, because I've recently seen online through YouTube and that AI agencies where it's completely AI. It's like a whole bunch of it's just recently came out. I'm trying to, it's like an AI crew or something like that, where you program agents. It's AI agents. Have you been looking into that for Bigly, or is that something
That's
that?
basically what we're doing. I mean,
Oh,
so the big thing we're doing, we have an AI autoresponder, so we can put it on any email, any text message, right? We're adding voice. Hopefully, voice is going to be out February, March timeframe, where we'll be able to qualify a person. So let's say we're using it for sales. We'll be
mhm.
able to have it ask 5 or 10 qualifying questions, right? Are you over 65? Do you already have other insurance, right? Do you own your home? Whatever the qualifying questions may be, we'll have it be able to actually ask those questions, get answers to those questions, understand if the answer is a legitimate answer to the question or not, just like a human would. And then be able to take any qualifying lead and book an appointment with them, or pass them over to a live agent to finish the call, and book insurance, because you still need a live agent, right, at the end of the
Mhm.
day. But we can do all the grunt work. We can do all the time consuming stuff to verify that a person qualifies on the front end. So for some of our clients, we're providing the leads themselves. For others, that we're just actually doing the qualification piece for them. But we can take that person, let's say someone fills out a form online, right? We can take that form, we can automate out a text message. Hey, this is Phil. I'm your, sales assistant. Wanted to see what your availability is to come and have that assessment done on, whatever you're looking to do, your house, your roof, your bathroom, your kitchen, for whatever. And we have the AI schedule that appointment and go back and forth with you. And you're like, hey, I'm available. It's Wednesday. I got some time on Friday, in the afternoon. It's like, great. I got 2 and 4 available. What's better for you? And you're like, 2. And it says, okay, cool. And it'll automate out an appointment reminder, send you a calendar invite, and do the whole thing. So we have that working with, SMS. We're adding voice to that in the next month or 2 here. We're pretty close on the voice. Um, we have the latency down to under a second, and we have it working pretty well.
Wow.
So
Um, what is the the niche, or the your ideal customer? Like, what businesses or people are you going after with Bigly Sales?
So that's a great question. I mean, anyone who needs to respond to leads quickly. So especially if there's a high volume of leads. There's a couple of companies. I'll tell you. The
Mhm.
one that impressed me was, have you ever dealt with Rocket Mortgage?
I've heard of Rocket Mortgage. I don't own any
I think they're the
houses.
biggest mortgage broker in the country,
Yeah.
right? I put in a form for them and I got a call. I mean, I hit send and my phone started ringing. It was unbelievable. They had an agent there immediately. It's the only company I've ever seen do that, right? Where you hit send and your phone starts ringing. That's what we're going to do. That we can do that for any company, especially a larger, a mid-sized business that has 10, 20, 50, 100, 500, 1,000 people in their call center. If they have 1,000 people in their call center, they can probably do that already.
Mhm.
But we'll be able to do it at a much better cost point, um, with everyone who, it's like your best sales rep with the most information about your company
Yeah,
will be the
it's
one booking that appointment. Will be able to answer any question on the business, where you can take all the documentation, put it in. Okay, what's your warranty? What's your company history? What are your selling points? What offers are you doing right now? What are the promotions, right? And we can plug it all in and have the AI just go back and forth with it. And we use this company called 11 Labs. 11 Labs is really cool. We can clone any voice. So maybe Elizabeth Hurley is the voice that kills it. And you take a voice like Elizabeth Hurley, maybe it's the James Earl Jones, that you can clone any voice, you can alter it a little bit, you can make it deeper, you can make it, lighter, and then you can give it a personality. So we're actually going to be testing different voices with different personalities to see what performs better for different types of products, you know,
Jesus.
and then taking any of the data where, okay, we made a sale, let's take that data, let's feed it back in and see what was said there so it can continue to perform better. It's going to be, within a couple of years, AI is going to be hyper persuasive. It's going to be better than pretty much any sales rep out there.
it's going to be the premium sales person.
Yeah,
And everybody's going to be,
at 10% of the cost.
yes, a huge fraction of the cost and able to scale a company
Infinitely.
infinitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Geez, my brain is being blown away by this, Tom. I do have a question about investing in yourself, because is a common theme of this podcast, giving it its
Yep.
name. Could you share a personal practice, habit, or a resource that has been instrumental in your professional growth, and how others can incorporate a similar practice into their own life for success?
So let me tell you the best thing I can tell everyone. This is what I've told my nieces and nephews and, cousins, and go learn AI right now, right? Start playing around with ChatGPT or Claude today. Figure out how it works. Learn that skill. Ask it its capabilities. What is it good at? What can it do? What are different applications for your type of business? What are different applications for how can it save you time? And then dig into those details. You want to learn these skills. If you learn how to use this technology, you will be 5 or 10 times more efficient than the other people around you. You will be 5 or 10 times more efficient than the guy sitting at the next desk. You will be the one getting that promotion. You will be the one who was able to, take a task that you were doing manually and eliminate 90% of the time suck that's there. Time is your only finite resource. So, everything else is unlimited. Time is finite. Use the tools to save you time and automate these things. Doing things by hand is kind of done. So if say you're going to do a task and say, before I do this, how can I use AI to do this faster, easier, and make it repeatable? And boy, I have no idea how to do this. Why don't I ask ChatGPT? How can I automate this? Right? What can ChatGPT do to help? Right? And I would literally use it for everything. Particularly a computer task. Anything you don't know how to do on a computer, it knows.
Oh yeah.
Anything programming, it knows.
I use ChatGPT to create the intros for the podcast off of the bios that my guests provide me in the sheet. It goes straight into ChatGPT, creates a document afterwards, and I just have to simply read it, and we get those amazingly word-filled intros that I read at the beginning by ChatGPT, because it can come up with better words, a more eloquent way of introducing a guest to make
better words.
Better words. Let me use the $10 word because that's what I'm paid for. But yes, it uses the better words. It creates a more engaging intro for the guest and makes the guest feel alive and valuable.
It makes good words now.
It makes good words now.
No, for sure. I mean, it does, but that's like scratching the surface of the capabilities. I mean, just scratching the surface. So if you take some big data set you have and someone's like, oh, I need you to organize this. Like we were talking about today, we have 7,000 zip codes for this client that we're dealing with. We're like, okay, let's organize this by county. Well, you can put it in there and say, organize it by county and do this. You can start taking large volumes of data and put it in and having it play with that data. I mean, there's just so much that you can do with this stuff. So if you're doing it on a computer, AI is going to be able to do it better, faster, and cheaper than you can. If it can't do it today, it'll be able to in the next year or two.
Oh yeah.
And it's beyond a shadow of a doubt. So this is doubling every 3 to 6 months. So a 6-month double means that we are 1,000 times more powerful in 5 years. A 3-month double means we're 1,000,000 times more powerful in 5 years. Which, what's 1,000 times or 1,000,000 times going to look like? I have no idea. But I think it's going to look like magic, the things that you can do. That you can basically just say, do this, and it's going to do it for you. Which we're not there yet, but I think this is like the people complaining about the internet in the 1990s, right? In 1994, no one's ever going to use this internet thing. It takes 10 minutes to load up an article or to look at a picture. Like, no one's ever going to use it for anything. This is like the fax machine, right? Well, you know,
20 years later, we can't
yeah,
live without it.
this
And,
is going to change it. This is going to change things more than the internet. This is, it's going to change so much so fast. So learn how to use it. That's the big thing.
I love it, and it's the greatest piece of advice I think going into invest in yourself is learning the tool set that's going to change the world in the coming months and coming years. But we are coming up near the end of the episode, Tom, and
I'll give one other tip.
Bring it on, bring it on.
So I don't know if you guys have used Fiverr or if you've used Upwork or anything like that. Phil, have you used these things?
I've used Fiverr.
Okay.
I haven't done Upwork yet, but I've used Fiverr.
The same difference, right? Anything you need that's a specialty skill, you can now find for pennies on the dollar on one of these platforms. That there's someone who will do this work for you, who that's all they do. That's their whole life. And they'll charge you $50, $100, $200 for any sort of editing, graphic design, making videos. So if there's anything that you need done, you can probably find it there for, a few $100s maximum. We had a voiceover person, and her voice was magnificent. It was the most beautiful voice I've ever heard. And she charged us like $10 each time. She would do a video for us. It would be 2 minutes, and she would charge us like $10, and it was literally the most like eloquent, beautiful voice I've ever heard. So anyway, there's these tools out there that you can use that allow you to do things very inexpensively. Use ChatGPT, mix it in with something like Bubble or another no-code tool. You can build 98% of the websites out there that you would need within a couple of days. If you don't know how to do it yourself or you don't want to figure it out, hire someone on Fiverr, hire someone on Upwork, pay them a couple $100 to build your Bubble site. You'll be happy. They'll be happy. So that's my big advice is start using these tools like ChatGPT. And then you can find outsourced labor for very, very cheap, which is high quality on some of these other sites. And you have all the tools you need to build your business.
I love it. And it's true. Fiverr has helped me dramatically. It created this nice little background on the video that you see.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
By the way, for graphic design like that, you can actually do that in ChatGPT right now. Make this ChatGPT in 10 seconds. But you probably did this more than a year ago.
Yeah, right? It was back in 2020, before ChatGPT was a gleam in anybody's eyes. But Tom, we're coming to the end, which I despise because I'm having a great time talking with you about AI. I'm a podcast AI fanatic. So we will definitely be having you back on later on in the year or next year.
Thank you so much, Phil.
Because I want to hear more about what's going on, the changes in 3, 6.
I can't wait to tell you when when all the voice stuff is live, where we're having to do the phone calls.
We'll do a full AI podcast at that point, just with the voice.
Yeah, we'll have it clone me and you, and neither of us has to show up. We'll just have a talk.
There we go. Make my life even easier, simpler. But here's my final question, Tom. I have the 10-year-old version of you right beside me. He's kicking, raring to go, looking at you and going, why do I have so much gray hair? But really, I want you to provide one piece of advice to your 10-year-old self that was going to help him through the rest of his life.
I'll tell you what I have my daughter doing right now. She's writing a children's book. So she's doing all the editing online. She's using ChatGPT, and we're using another product called Midjourney, which makes beautiful pictures, just absolutely gorgeous. And she's using this to, edit a children's book, and we're going to be publishing it, in a few weeks here onto the Amazon store. But the whole point about the project was, one, she thinks it's fun, but to get her using these tools, to get her playing around with this stuff and learning it, and not to be scared of it, because it's going to make, people's lives so much easier. So same thing I told everyone else. Learn these tools. That's what I have my 10-year-old doing. As soon as my 5-year-old knows how to read, I'm going to have him start doing it too.
I love it. It's great pieces of advice. Tom, I'm going to jump off the screen here. I want you to let my audience know where they can go find you so that they can work with Bigly Sales, or if they're interested in learning more about AI, if you're sharing that stuff like that. So the floor, sir, is yours.
Yeah, we're on all the social media channels, but best place to find us, biglysales.com, biglysales.com. And thanks for all the time today, everyone.
Tom, that was sweet, simple, and to the point. I love it. I thank you so much for being here. It was a pleasure talking with you. And like I said before, I'm looking very much to talking to you in the future about what's going on at Bigly Sales and all the crazy innovations that you're going to be bringing through.
Thank you so much, Phil. I really appreciate it.
To my audience, as you know, check out the show notes down below to check out Bigly Sales and Tom. And of course, always remember to invest in yourself.